Welcome to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today is Sunday, August 23rd. So I am shut down this weekend due to Tropical Storm Laura. It's blowing out. So taking the time to get some stuff caught up at home. And we'll see how next week plays out. Usually after these systems, you'll have a high pressure that'll set in, which will kick it up pretty good, and then you'll have a swell and all that other good stuff. But who knows what we'll see. Now, this morning I got to thinking, and I was like, oh man, it's funny how your brain works sometimes. And I do remember a storm in 2016, and I don't remember what the name of it was because it was pretty insignificant. All I know is that it screwed fishing up for a while. But what I do remember about this storm was it set up one hell of an edge. And what happened was guys were running way out deep and they were looking for dolphin. They didn't find any, so they were coming back in to try to punt and recover, doing some refishing. And they stumbled upon the edge. And what they found on this edge was the sail fishing was lit, man. It was like unbelievable. So this edge set up like spectacular sailfish, and the guys stumbled upon it by accident. It wasn't like planned or anything. Most guys were like all in dolphin fever, and they punted it and recovered. They came back in, found the edge, and then they found the sailfish. And from there, it just like the coconut telegraph, man, it just spread like wildfire as far as the intel. And then you had every sailfishing team down here capitalizing on numerous fish, and it was it was cool to see. Now along that edge too, just wasn't sailfish. It was lit up with dolphin, and the Wahoo were there, which is really cool. And a few guys even capitalized on a couple blue marlin. So down by, I think the blue marlin were caught off of Alligator South down to Tennessee. So something to think about. Something you might want to be ready for after the storm. Now, who knows what the sea conditions are going to be like and what the current's going to be like, but all I'm talking about is what happened in the past, and sometimes history likes to repeat itself. So, guys, that awesome sailfishing that you guys see now I think it's in the spring. I don't get into that. So what happens is those guys, the guys that are doing that, they've got it really timed out of when those fish are going to be there, and they know the pattern. So when they know the pattern, they're the first to be there because they're right there. They know what's going to happen, and they're going to rack up those numbers of 70-some fish a day and all that good stuff. And you'll see if you go look at it, it's the same boats. So those guys are really starting to figure out the patterns down there. And that's the trick to all this is figuring out the pattern. And history can repeat itself. That's why I'm talking about this storm today, because it kind of looks like the same thing. It was kind of shitty and kind of just messed things up, but it brought with it a hell of an edge. I mean, the storm, the wind's going to kick up to maybe 40, 50 miles an hour, which is what we need down here to get the fishing stirred up and bring in some new fish. And now, typically inside that edge, you'll have some calmer water. The current might be really light. So with that being said, I look back at April where we had like pretty easy mutton snapper fishing because we had that incredible edge that set up during COVID. And the water was kind of dirty, and on the outside of that edge it was spectacular, but inside the muttons had pushed in, and it brought like some pretty easy fishing in April, guys. Pretty easy stuff. And all you had to do is just basically be on the 145-foot ledge or be in an area where the muttons congregate, and you were racking up some pretty easy numbers for mutton fishing. So, I mean, it just set up that way this year because of the way the current was and what happened in April. So whether that or history will repeat itself next year, who knows? So it's always good to kind of keep those things in mind because every year is different. I look back at like 2016. I look back at 2018, 2017 after Irma. Mutton snapper fishing, extremely easy. Lots of big fish. That carried over into 2019 a little, but not a lot. It was still good, but not great. And this year has been a lot more work because of the amount of boats that are fishing out there. So it's a lot more work, and spots are getting pretty picked over. But we'll see what happens with this tropical. I think it's going to really. We need this kind of stuff as far as Mother Nature goes to get the bottom stirred up, get the fish moving, and get some rain. We haven't seen a lot of rain in the Keys this surprisingly, but it's kind of like one of those things. I do not like tropical storms because they mess things up, but in a way that you need balance to make things happen out there as the fishing goes, and you just need that kind of stuff to for the healthy Everglades water. You need it. So I think you guys get it. So I'll leave you guys with this on this little tip is to be ready for after the storm. And what I'll do is not through the podcast, but through my fishing report on my app, I'll tell you guys what's going on or if there's a rip. Because I'll be able to get out because I'll be on the Sea Hunter, which the 40-footer, and the thing has a Seakeeper in it now, so it's a beast of a boat. It doesn't rock, so I'll be able to get out there and tell you guys what's going on as far as the water quality goes, and what the current's doing and all that kind of good stuff. So you'll have to stay tuned. Like I said, if you haven't downloaded the app, you can do that. What you can do is that if you're on Instagram, you can go into my bio, click on it, then you can just click on the link and download it through there. Now, it's available in the iTunes Store and the Play Store as well. So the fishing reports are going to be real time and all that good stuff. So mainly, it's what's great about the reports is you're going to get the actual conditions and the current. So, and at least in the areas that I'm fishing, and I'll talk a little bit more about bringing in some other fishing reports later from other areas, but also, too, we're working on tides. We're working on all this other stuff out there. Things take time with app development. So I appreciate you guys that are downloading the app. I'm working on making this the absolute best fishing app that it can be. Okay. So I'm building it for you guys. So just if you guys have some input of what you guys want to see in the app, I appreciate it. You can email me at goodkarmaryan@gmail.com. If you have a weather site that you want to build in, you can get into the weather app and you can submit a request for me to put in a buoy for you at no cost. So if you have a buoy that you're paying for, let me know and I'll add it. So then you can have it. So no costs. So a lot of the weather sites are starting to charge you now. So the stuff that I'm doing, I'm not going to charge you for. You can just have it and all that good stuff. And then I'll work on sea surface temperatures and all that good stuff that you'll be able to get to. But anyway, so that's enough with the app. So download it. I really appreciate it. It's for you guys and to give you guys some intel. And then watch the app grow. We have a lot of stuff coming. Also, guys, I did finish for the guys that purchased the Wahoo series Part 1 regarding downrigger fishing and how I do it. Part 2 is ready. Now, Part 2, you see exactly how I run my high-speed planers. So I show you how I set it up, and it's not how you see it on the videos. It is different. So I did not show how I exactly do that on any of the videos that you see out there. It is completely different. So nothing that I've shown in public as far as my setup is out there. So because that's just how it rolls. So if you want to see how I do it, how I set it up, how I run the non-trip high-speed planer off my electric downrigger, you got to purchase Part 2, or actually you just purchased a downrigger series. It's a 3-part video series, and number 3 it'll be out in here maybe in a couple weeks. Here we've got some weather that we got to contend with, and a lot of stuff I'm doing on the water. So, but thank you guys that have purchased the course. And now you have the secret on how I run my high-speed planer non-trip. It takes some practice, but once you get it dialed in, you're going to catch a lot of wahoo on lighter tackle this fall and more. Because one thing about high-speed fishing is you can't make those turns. You can't make the turns. You're doing 15, 20 mile an hour, and it's tough to make tight turns and to make the actual pattern to get the wahoo to bite when it's not easy. So high speed's great, but you actually cannot make a lot of tight turns when you high speed. So just saying. So my style of fishing, it's non-high speed and we catch a lot of fish. So And a lot of it is too, I want to teach you how you can learn your areas and all that good stuff. And that's the kind of stuff I'm going to talk about in another podcast. So today I've got one other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about daisy chains, okay? Daisy chains. I love fishing with daisy chains, and I kind of got away from it because I haven't done a lot of trolling here since the Wahoo season. I've actually been out dolphin fishing 3 times, and I just went with a good client of mine, Kevin, and we went offshore, and it was, I don't like it. I don't like the dolphin fish when it's cloudy. I just feel that dolphin have a hard time keying in on baits, but what I've done is I've created my own Wahoo baits. My own dolphin baits for cloudy days that I developed on my own, and I'm tying them on my own. So what I did was I kind of changed things up. I put out those baits, and then I run a teaser, and I run a big squid chain teaser off my downrigger. Okay, so my favorite color teaser to run in the Keys is a green with a lot of silver sparkle. I make a big green squid chain, and what I do is I run it off my downrigger and I get it skipping. I want it just popping below and above the surface, so what I do is I weight the squids, and then I run it off my downrigger, and what that does, it dives into the water and it runs under the water, then it pops like a flying fish. So what was happening was the fishing was a little slow in the morning, and I was like, well, why the hell haven't I put out my daisy chain yet off the downrigger? I was like, why didn't I put out the teaser? And what I did was too, and I was like spaced out, and I go, why didn't I put out my dark day baits? And I just looked at myself and started laughing. Shit happens, man. I tell you what, I'm going to tell you like it is. I made a mistake. I didn't get those baits out when I needed to. And I swear to God, as soon as I put them out, I was covering some scattered weeds, and boom, I put out the chain, and I changed up my baits for dark days, the cloudies, and boom, I had them coming in. They were barreling all over it. So the squid chain, like I said, it's a green chain. It's got a lot of sparkle and bling in it. I think I've got a rig with like six squids. And I run it off my downrigger, and like I said, it really pops in that green chartreuse color. Really pops in the cloudy days. And the baits I'm using, like I said, I'll vary some custom baits that I'm doing. So right now, as far as based on what I know personally, and I've created those baits during COVID, and man, they are just crushing it. I was extremely happy with what I've been doing with those baits, and I was like, why the hell didn't I put them out in the first place? I don't know. I spaced out. I mean, shit happens. I had some other things in my mind that morning, but as soon as I switched it up, we had a hell of a day, and we raised plenty of fish. And then once the sun came out, those baits didn't perform as well. They came right back in the box, and we went right back with our blues and our whites and off the ballyhoos, and then that's what they switched over to. So, like I said, it makes a big difference as far as at least when you're fishing on those darker days, to make sure you have the right colors out there. At least I did that day. And what got me is that I spaced out and I didn't put the right baits out. I mean, I make mistakes, and I'm not afraid to talk about it because I'm not perfect. So it cost me probably about 2.5 hours of no bites, which sucked. So one thing I got back to, guys, and that's running my daisy chains. I had been, like I said, I haven't been doing a lot of trolling, and I really loved running sea witches and stuff. But one thing that I got to remember is that I had to kick myself in the ass. Is I had to get back to basics, and I had to make sure I had a daisy chain out, and that's even when I'm wahoo fishing. Guys, if you're not running a pink daisy chain when you're wahoo fishing, you guys are missing out. And I've been missing out. And like I said, for some reason over the years, you kind of get yourself stuck on certain things but really what it comes down to is getting back to the basics. And the squid daisy chain, when you're wahoo fishing, guys, you gotta have one out, okay? You got to have one out. Because why? because basically what happens is that when you are wahoo fishing and you have a squid chain out, okay, bonito, blackfin tuna, all that stuff raises into that. And you guys know that in the fall that the wahoo are around those schools of tuna, and they're around those schools of bonito. And all you need, guys, is to have those fish attack that daisy chain or rise up into it. And then boom, you got a wahoo that's excited and he comes in behind them. So yeah, you're going to catch some tunas, you're going to catch like some mahi. And for me, that's what I need. I need to keep the rod bending. And that pink daisy chain is just, it's a wahoo magnet on days when they're not eating on your regular wahoo baits. Watch what happens. My buddy Kevin, he just scored his first big wahoo on a pink daisy chain. And I know other guys out there that are using these pink daisy chains, and they've been using them for years when they wahoo fish. They always have one out, always. So they run a couple planer baits, and then they'll run a super long pink squid bait. It acts like a teaser. It raises bonito, and then up below the bonito come the wahoo. So it's just how it goes. It really does help. There's a lot of different things out there that you guys can do to get more bites, and we're coming into the season. It's not about dragging big baits all the time and dragging plugs. I'm going to tell you, you need to get yourself a pink daisy chain. Okay, there's many of them out there, and I'm not going to recommend any sort of products, and I might in the future here, but you'll have to stay tuned because I just don't do that. Like I said, I make my own stuff when it comes to that. Like I said, I've got a daisy chain in my podcast that works amazing. It crushes fish. And that's my favorite, but I've got to add a little bit more pink to it, bottom line. So pink for the fall. It really does. It just is what it is. So you can add the purple to it as well. You can run a purple chain, purple and black daisy chain. That works killer. So that's something else you can do. Run 2 different sets, depending on how many guys you have in the boat. Now, it catches everything. So, and you're going to catch a lot of wahoo on those things, man. And you don't necessarily need to have them wired either because they're surface baits. And as long as you have a big hook, you don't need to wire them up. You're going to get more bites without the wire anyways, which is proven that, especially with the guys that are running the bait strips, ditch the wire, especially if you're running inline planers. Get rid of it. Just run 2 number 8s or 2 number 7s. My personal favorites are 2 number 8s because I have less bite offs. But when I run a downrigger, my downrigger system, I always run wire. It is what it is with me. So, but in the past, I've experimented with 100-pound fluorocarbon. I've caught some nice wahoo with that. Usually when I run ballyhoo, you can get away with running ballyhoo most of the time without wire on it. Then just use heavy mono or heavy fluorocarbon. Heavy fluorocarbon, like I said, I like to use 80 to 100 pound. You can get away with 60. You get more bites with 60-pound fluorocarbon, guys. Bottom line, no wire. Okay, and if you're worried about getting bit off all the time and you're a recreational guy, then yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. So you're going to get more bites. I know guys that last summer they got their first few wahoos, no problem, double hooks. They kept the boat moving forward. You try not to turn the boat because when you turn the boat, it turns the mono into the fish's mouth. Try to keep the fish to one side. If you're moving the fish to another side, then the hook, the way he's hooked, that might chafe him across the line. So keeping him hooked and keeping him on one side is very important. So and try to get him planed up if you're doing the inline planers. But the way that I fish is it's all stand up stuff, and I don't know. I can't even begin to tell you. how I do it. So, anyways, but because then I'm going to go into like a 3-part series on it. Okay, so I kind of got off track there. Pink daisy chains, pearl inserts inside the squid heads. There's so many different chains out there by so many different companies, but they really do a number on the Wahoo. And like you said, it's something a lot of guys don't even think about because a lot of guys don't talk about it. Well, I'm talking about it today, and I wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't work. So there you go. A little tip that's going to help you catch more fish. So I've got to wrap it up. I've got a lot going on today. I've got another secret project that I'm working on, and I've got some time here this morning where I need this. It's hard to do this project because it requires some thought process, and I am like no good in the afternoon when it comes to thinking. It's like, trust me, it's like, oh, when you talk to me in the afternoon, I'm like off on another planet somewhere. That's it. You can follow me on Instagram at goodkarmasportfishing_FL_keys. Download the app in the Play Store or in iTunes. It's the Good Karma Sport Fishing app. That is where you're going to find the detailed fishing reports, real time, currents, what's happening, water quality, the bite. I'm going to tell you exactly like it is. The reports are going to be 2 to 3 days a week when I'm out. No report this weekend because we have the little tropical movement and I won't be going anywhere. Get involved with my Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. It's the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. Check out my website once in a while, www.goodkarmasportfishing.com. The tackle store is goodkarmafishingtackle.com. That's where you're going to find the courses. That's it. And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good. Thanks, guys.